time to muck around. And as Charles said, you've got to tell the truth. It's what I am. My CV is what I've done. I am an environmentalist and I'm a capitalist. Now, the Industrial Revolution is over and the sustainability revolution has begun. How we handle that transition will define the outcome of the 21st century for all of you and indeed all of humanity. The clock has started, the bell has rung. We're in a race to the future. But which future? From where I stand, there are two very clear futures for the next 15 years. We've got a technological future, and we've got an environmental and business future. And the two will come together again in about 15 years' time, in 2030, at which point the fate of the 21st century will be sealed. So the three big things for me in the technological environment, of course, digital printing. It's not that it's started and it's going to revolutionize all sorts of business. It's where it's going. So NASA has spent $100 million on a program to work out how to print food using amino acids and proteins. So that is where digital printing is going as a technology. It'll be much more interesting and much more powerful than the internet ever was. The second thing, of course, in that is something that's going to change all of our lives, which is the singularity. This is defined as the moment at which artificial intelligence becomes cleverer than human intelligence. So computers are faster and bigger than brains. I think we're 5 or 8 years away from that. At that point, it gets frightening for two reasons. One is that computers will be designing computers. They will be writing programs that humans almost don't understand or can't understand, except with the use of other machines. At the same time, we're going to have the connectivity between the human brain and computing world. I mean, already if you've got your nerves interrupted in your arm, you can get a chip implant that can make your fingers move again. So how long before we can actually start thinking Google? And the answer is within the next 15 years. The third big punchy thing into the future has to be nanotechnology, making machines at a nano level, from things that can improve our health by surgery at a cellular level to frightening new tools of war. And within that, a whole breadth of new materials that are almost unimaginable to many of us. I've seen the first neoprene bodysuit, which is thin, 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 and fits under a soldier's armor. With that, as your muscles contract, so does the suit, but it's extremely strong and extremely movable. So a soldier wearing a full body kit can simply leap over a car and a 40 kilo on his back because of the suit. It's not your muscles doing it, it's the suit interacting with your muscles. And so these new industries and new technologies will change the world. But that's not the really interesting bit. That's not the bit that makes me passionate. The bit that makes me passionate is the interaction between business and the environment. So in the revolution, everything is going to disappear. Everything you take for granted today will be reinvented. Gone are the traditional models of extract, manufacture, throw away. Gone also is the whole model that I grew up with of multi-generational product development, where an iPhone 4 was already on the drawing board before the iPhone 1 was built. And that sort of world of selfish consumerism will be replaced by three things. By durability first. Why durability? Because companies in this new world want things to last. Take Patagonia. Patagonia makes wonderful jackets for outdoor work. They are making durable products because they have seen a different world into which they're moving. They have sold their first jacket 3 times. They sold it in a retail environment to somebody who bought it at $250. That person, rather than putting it into U-Store, sent it back to Patagonia. Patagonia put it onto the Patagonia eBay store, and they sold it a second time. They sent a voucher to the first person who bought it to go and buy more things at Patagonia. And then they've sold it a third time. So they've sold a jacket 3 times, and they're making their money out of the lifetime of the product, not a one-time sale to a selfish consumer. If you then look at, so you've got product durability, you've got upgradability. In the past, let's take white goods, washing machines. People used to make a washing machine to last for 5 years. That's gone, it's finished. The washing machine designs coming out in the next 2 to 3 years will have a design life of 30 years. Now you might think that's going to muck up your whole business model. No, it's going to change it for the better. So you make a machine, a washing machine, there's 4 things break on a washing machine. There's the belt that connects the motor to the drum, there's the motor itself, there's the seals around it, and the slidey drawer. Now, in the new washing machine design, when your belt breaks, it tells you. You slide it out, you turn a thing like this, and the whole slide comes out that contains the belt. You write your email address on it, you stick it in the letterbox. They send you an email, and then they send you a new belt that you can self-repair your machine. So you then slide it back in, twist it, and it's done. From that to upgradability, when you want to upgrade your washing machine, you just take the front cover off and get a silver one or one that includes a television or whatever it happens to be that you're upgrading. So product upgradability is the mega trend that's going to happen. You're going to buy things from your iPhone to everything else that you can upgrade. Your screen will stay the same, but the bits will change. The next bit is closing loops in business. So take a retailer like Marks & Spencer's in the UK. They're now designing cotton jackets that you take back to the store. That is what the purpose of a retailer will be in the 21st century. Why do they want you to bring your jacket back to the store? Because they want to buy it off you. Why do they want to buy it off you? Because they don't want to buy cotton from Pakistan or from Americas. They want to buy yours to recycle it. Cotton is as recyclable as anything else, as paper, tin, or glass. And that is how they're inventing their role into the 21st century. As a retailer, it's a recycling depot and a place where they can purchase back the raw materials to go and make more goods and services. So the technological world, and you've got the whole changing and the whole shift from manufacturing throwing away to durability, sharing, and all the other modern things that are coming into our business world. And somebody said to me last night, but we only get real innovation when there's a war on. And I thought about it for a while, and I think about all the extraordinary innovation I'm seeing into this new world of business. And I thought, actually, we are at war. We declared war on Mother Nature 70 years ago, 80 years ago. And we're coming to the end of that battle now because we're never going to win. So we have to sue for peace with Mother Nature. And in that is where the extraordinary inventiveness and cleverness will come out of. So that's how I see the future. What have I done about myself in the future? Well, I decided to look at the whole world and decided to pick 2 or 3 things. So I sold all of my Industrial Revolution businesses in 2008 and then committed to the 21st century and committed to sustainability. And I decided to pick the biggest, hairiest problems and then go and try and solve them in a business-like manner. So for me, the single biggest problem we've got is the fact that every single day on this planet, there are 100 million acts of sexual intercourse. 375,000 children are born. 170,000 of us die. That means that this evening, 205,000 more people will sit down for supper than had breakfast this morning. How on earth are we going to feed all these people? And I went around and looked at various systems. So I decided that I was going to try and save the seas. I decided I was going to try and get rid of pesticides. And I was trying to get rid of also the nitrogen-based fertilizer industry. So I started at the beginning, and I followed fish, looked at all this fish in the seas, and understood that 1/3 of all the fish we take out of our seas is ground up and used in industrial agriculture. It's complete madness. Fish farms, which Jorn was talking about this morning, is bonkers. You are much better off eating the last fish in the sea than you are eating a farmed fish, because on average you have to take between 1 and 10 kilos of fish from the sea, grind it up into fish meal, to put it into a fish farm to make 1 kilo of farmed fish, of which you and I eat 60% the fillets and throw the rest away. Now, I looked at that, and I happened to be standing outside the back of a slaughterhouse, because I follow odd things and look at disjointed things around the world, and saw this immense lake of blood. And it was surrounded by flies. And I suddenly thought, when I was a kid, there was only 2 ways to catch a fish. One was to tie a fly onto a line and cast it onto the water. The other was to go into a field, find a bit of poo, open it up, and find in there a larvae, a wriggly larvae, put it on a hook and drop it into the water. So I suddenly thought the way to save the planet, in fact, would be to feed fish flies. But that's what they should eat, because that's why people go fishing with flies. So we have built the world's only and largest farm. We have 5.5 billion flies in each of our factories. And we take the flies, and we teach them to lay eggs in one place. We take 1 kilo of eggs, we feed it with all the waste that would otherwise go to landfill, blood and guts, poo, uneaten sandwiches, all the food from this hotel, that sort of stuff. And the flies, of course, the eggs hatch, wriggle into larvae, and 1 kilo of eggs turns into 380 kilos of wriggly larvae. Our big factories turn out, taking 110 tons of waste a day and make 20 tons a day of larvae. That's 20 tons of fish we don't have to take out of the seas, 20 tons of fish we can feed to fish in fish farms, which is what they should be eating. And in the same way also we feed them to chickens, because when a chicken is scratching in the field, a free-range chicken, it's not looking for fish, otherwise it would be called a seagull. I think within 15 years, we will put out of business every single fish meal producer in the world. Why? Because they have to fish deeper and harder all the time for fish that aren't there. We have more and more waste. We make a commodity at $800 a ton, and they can only catch it at $1,600 a ton. So I think that we will reinvent that notion of sustainability within our fish farms, and perhaps Bjorn's view of fish farms becoming great and sustainable will happen, and then we can leave our seas alone for the subsistent fishermen that should be fishing them. So I then went on to look at pesticides and investigated the whole systems around pesticides. And by accident, a series of accidents came up with, I think, quite an extraordinary finding. And last year, this current year, we sold 300 million mosquitoes. This year, we'll sell in excess of 1 billion mosquitoes. And in the years after that, we will create and be shifting and selling up to 100 billion insects a year. What do? We're going to uninvent pesticides. So these guys had come up with a remarkable idea, which was to create a sterile male mosquito. And so we are now selling sterile male mosquitoes. So if you used to release sterile male mosquitoes in this room, they'd mate with the wild females. The females would lay her eggs. The eggs would never hatch. Now, it can't get out of control, because sterility is the only thing on the planet you can't inherit. If your parents were sterile, you would never have been born. So instead of taking out entire ecosystems with pesticides, in a very localized manner, we take out mosquitoes, which allows a monoculture of humans, the diamondback moth, which allows a monoculture of cabbage, the olive fly, the Mediterranean fruit fly. We're going through the species so that farmers don't have to use pesticides. They can use sex to get rid of the pest they want to. So we're going to use sex to get rid of pests in and around fields, and we will, I think within 15 to 20 years, have completely uninvented the notion of pesticides. The last thing that we're doing in that space is very interesting as well. As we moved into cities, we used our streets and alleyways to wee and poo on, basically. And then the Victorians decided this wasn't very good and built sewers and put the one place you shouldn't put the wee and poo, which is into the seas. So we've built a unique toilet system in the slums of Kenya, where we sell toilets in, nice concrete toilets, branded Fresh Life. We sell them to female entrepreneurs predominantly. These are slums where there's no water, no electricity, not even much hope, to be honest. And they charge the other users around them 5 Kenyan shillings, 3 US cents to use the toilets. That's about 1.5% of their daily income of $2. The entrepreneurs, we have 300 of them now, on average earn $8 a day by servicing and providing a service to their local communities for people who would otherwise have to defecate on the streets. We then go and take the wee and the poo out from the 2 milk churns that are underneath this concrete toilet structure, and we separate the wee and the poo, because basically all animals wee forwards and poo backwards. So make a loo, and that's what we do. We take the wee and the poo out, and we compost the poo, and that covers the operating costs of the business. And then we make a fortune by taking the piss out of the slums. And what we do, and urine is 15% nitrogen, it just is. It has some potassium and some phosphates. We balance that up a bit by adding a bit of potassium and phosphates. We end up with 531 liquid fertilizer. It's completely inert, it contains no bacteria, because the nitrogens have broken down any bacterial elements and broken down any genetic material that might have got into your urinary tract. And so then we sell 531 liquid fertilizer to farmers in Kenya. Instead of importing granulated 531 from Europe, which they have to water into the ground with water they don't have, they put our 531 tanks straight into their drip irrigation systems, and we have broken the cycle of importing fertilizer for Europe. And it's why for 10,000 years we've weed and pooed on our vegetable patches, because as early humans we knew that that was the best soil conditioner going. It put the nutrients that we'd taken in back into the soil, not back into the sea, from where they never came in the first place and are of no use whatsoever. So we're beginning to uninvent these things in the area that I see as the biggest challenge. So that's what I've decided to do about my future. What do you guys need to do about your futures? Firstly, you need to get thinking very differently. You mustn't accept, you must question everything. You get an email and it says, think before you print this. Don't think, print it. Send it to landfill, don't recycle it. If you read that on the screen, you will use more electricity generated by coal-fired power stations. If you print it as a tree and put it to landfill without recycling it, you're locking away the carbon. In terms of a carbon effect, it is much better to print it and read it and throw it away than it is to do what it says. So don't accept things, question everything. The second thing that one really needs to do is to forget everything that's normal and usual. Don't be interested by it. Don't follow other people. Go and look for unusual things. Go and look for the outlying things, the odd things. Where nobody else is going, go and look why nobody's going there. And you always find things. You cannot get different answers by following the herd, because the herd is doing industrial revolution thinking, and you need to get into a different way of thinking. So the next thing you need to do is then go and pick up bits of information here and there, like a butterfly flying around the place, stopping here and there. And don't worry, you don't need to know everything. You just need to know things that are different outside your comfort space. Then you need to do the next thing, which is start joining the dots together. And to do this, you need to do wonky thinking. So in the past, we've all been taught to think like machines, as a process, as linear. This, then this, then this, then this. It's not how the world really works. So get away from everything you were taught about linear understanding and start getting with wonky thinking, because wonky thinking is the future. We need to think in disjointed manners to add up and connect dots that we can't see that are initially there. Then you need to reinvent your business, because if you're not reinventing your business today, somebody else is, because it will not be the same in 15 years' time. Will you be printed out of existence? Maybe. Will one of the technologies come along to change your business? And in your business, to make it future-proof for the sustainability era, are you closing loops? Are you breaking the old extract, manufacture, throw away type conundrum? We need to do all of things. So you need to go back and say, how do I reinvent my business? Not a little bit, not extend its life by a bit of greenwashing here and there. How do I reinvent it for the sustainability revolution? And then, on top of all of that, you really need to get some commitment and some passion going. You need to sing like you don't need the money. You need to dance like nobody's looking. You need to love like your heart will never be broken. Because if you're not passionate, you will never get what you want. Thank you for listening.